So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome here. Now, for as long as I can remember, it feels like the whole century, people have been asking me, oh, what does it feel like now you're going to leave the Berlin Philharmonic? And for the last 5 years or so, I've been saying maybe it's a little bit too early. But now I realize this is actually my last press conference. And I actually really do have a very good lunch reserved for exactly this time next year. So I have to face the fact that it's the last season where I have an influence over what goes on here. And of course, for a last season, particularly after 16 years, you think of so many high spots and so many things. Oh, why didn't I do this? Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to do this again? And quite early on, our wonderful staff started saying, Simon, don't forget this is Germany. Where's the red line? And for the life of me, I couldn't find any red line at all. In fact, I see Elizabeth has very, very gamely written about everybody's favourite pieces. I thought, bravo, Elizabeth has finally found a red line. But the fact is, of course, it's a look back, it's a look forward. It's never that easy to build a season with the Berlin Philharmonic, particularly with guest conductors, because everybody has an idea of what they should do with the Berlin Philharmonic. It's about 20 big pieces that are asked for again and again. Alpine Symphony of Strauss, Bruckner Eighth, the Heldenleben. In fact, Heldenleben, well, I love all of these pieces. When I conducted Heldenleben with the Vienna Philharmonic, one of the orchestra said, Simon, you know the secret about this piece? Because only 200 people really love it, but they're all conductors. and so to try to make a season anyway and say to people, try to push in various directions, that's always hard. It's always hard to make a theme. Most of my seasons have the pleasure principle as an overriding factor, but maybe there's a little more than usual in this year. And in fact, I also gave myself the treat of asking some of the senior colleagues that I most admire to do specific pieces, because I really wanted to hear it, and these have always been pieces which I've associated with them. I couldn't imagine not hearing Bernhard Haitink conduct Mahler Ninth again, although he told me some years ago, oh no, this piece I can't do. But he couldn't resist it either. Herbert Blomstedt conducting the Bruckner Third, one of his most extraordinary pieces. And some years ago with Seiji Ozawa, when I was sitting in Japan, with Seiji still in his in depths of his illness, from which he's progressing wonderfully, he said, oh, you know, Ravel's L'Enfant les Sortilèges, this is the piece I would love to come back to do. So I said, Seiji, whenever you want to do this, we shall do this. And so there it is. I've asked some favourites from Simon as well. I start the season with the creation of Haydn. And we had for many years, and still in Great Britain, a program called Desert Island Discs, which were the 8 recordings you would take to a desert island. It's very British because you have books there, you have electricity and a record player, you just have no other people. And I have to say, when I was asked, what is the one piece you as a conductor, if you had no other pieces, if you only had to conduct one piece in the world, what could satisfy you? And I had to think that it was the Haydn creation, because it's one of the pieces that makes you the happiest to be alive. It's one of the pieces that takes all the music before and makes it Haydn's own specific self. And it seems to predict half of the music of the century that was to follow. And so I can't imagine a more joyful way of starting. And my last indoor concert, I decided to return to the first piece I ever conducted, with the orchestra when both Daniel Stabrava and I had very dark and very much hair. In fact, I had so much hair that the CD, which was released, they found it necessary to crop it to make it to make it look neat and tidy. My mother would have been thrilled. Simon, at last you look respectable, she would have said. But I will never forget standing in front of the orchestra to conduct Mahler 6 the first time. Of course, I'd heard them a few times under Karajan, but actually to stand in front of that sound. And I had this sneaking suspicion that somewhere or other I was finding my voice on that day. And so we have a long history with the piece together, and somehow that seems to be the piece to close the circle. There's also music to revisit. Interesting, over the years, I've clocked when a number of people in the orchestra have said, you know, this we should do again. The complete version of Bruckner Ninth, for instance. Even people who weren't sure whether it was the right thing to do also said, this gives us such a picture of what the rest of the piece is. And when you know you have more than 600 bars of vintage Bruckner there, that it gives you an idea of his thoughts of where the symphony was going. And that if you play the slow movement as a movement before one of his giant finales, this is a very different type of journey, and it's a very different type of emotional force. That was one of the things people asked for. I remember when we played Kodai's Hari János for the first time since Celibidache, Ulrich was one of the people who said, my goodness, this is incredible music. We should play this again. Simply the Lutosławski Third Symphony, realizing that this is one of the great masterpieces of any of symphonic music. These pieces to be visited again. Schumann's Paradisun Peri, which we played just once and which is indissolubly linked with the memory of Jan Disselhorst, who died shortly on the day before the first performance. And this is a great masterpiece, one of the great unsung masterpieces anyway, with a rather strange libretto. But listening on that first night, thinking of Jan, talking about the journey that happens in Paradisun Peri, what is it that makes you remembered? What is next? Where do we go? Every one of these strange words seem to remind us of our beloved colleague. And we always promised together, once it would be wonderful to play this piece without the shadow of that, and to look at it once again. Yeah, and even the birds are singing at the thought. And there were pieces that I said, oh my God, I must hear this orchestra play before I disappear. The Rachmaninoff Third Symphony, the Bernstein Age of Anxiety, his great masterpiece among the symphonies. And I don't think you would guess what is the best known Berlin Philharmonic premiere in this season, if you looked through it. To my absolute amazement, I thought, you know, I've never seen Dvorak's Carnival Overture in the programs. But of course it must have been played. We discover in the entire history of the Berlin Philharmonic, this most popular overture of the 19th century was never played. So it comes at Sylvester. And also in Sylvester, I talked about Bernstein, we play some of the On the Town music to also for Bernstein's centenary. And Joyce Di Donato and I found a wonderful piece, also very, very little known. It seems rather timely. It's from a cantata called 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, which is actually the White House. And there's a wonderful song for mezzo called Take Care of This House. I thought Bernstein would approve without saying any more. The late nights I'm afraid it's a treat for me. In my first season, I played the Messiaen Quartet for the End of Time, which I had worked and been beaten up by Nadia Boulanger so many years ago as a student. I played with some of the players, and I will play again. And we have an evening of the music of Paul Whiteman from the 20s, which will include, of course, the most famous of the pieces he commissioned, the Gershwin Rhapsody in Blue, but many of his other pieces, for which I've had the material for years. The Whiteman estate simply sent me photocopies of the parts. And it's wonderful because, of course, on the photocopy also comes out the stains of whiskey glasses on the bottom and the names of the players. There's Mr. Crosby trombone, who was Bing Crosby, who only pretended to play the trombone. So there's no notes, but there are the words of the songs. Mr. Beiderbecke on trumpet. Also, not too many notes, but just what kind of style. And I thought that would be a wonderful way also to finish off, for the time being, the late night concerts. They seem to be making a little pause, but I'm hoping that they are a deathless innovation that will creep up as a virus again in future years. A last season wouldn't be, for us, complete without a production with Peter Sellers and the Janacek, Cunning Little Vixen, one of the dearest pieces to me, the piece that actually made me become an opera conductor when I played it as a student, aged 17. I thought, no, this is a world I want to live in. Everything Peter has done for us, all the ways in which he has realized that this hall can do more and more things, that he's reminded us what an incredible treasure we have here. New pieces which aren't by Dvorak. Also, we have 7 more of the tapas from a wide-ranging group of composers. And, of course, some really old friends playing. Mitsuko Uchida, Daniel Barenboim, Christian Zimmermann, people I've been working with my whole career and love. Mark Padmore is the artist in residence, somebody I've known personally for years and years. And when you see the variety of pieces he's doing, you just simply see what kind of man this is. I mean, he had meant to be a clarinetist and was a very good clarinetist, but somehow words became more important, and his completely fearless communication will be, I think, an extraordinary part of this, whatever it is, 15, 16 concerts he does with us. I want to very quickly pay tributes as fast as I can. Martin Hoffman told me I absolutely could not pay tribute or thank him, so I won't. And my silence has to remain incredibly eloquent. You know, he knows. That's as close to silence as I could get, Martin. I would love to pay tribute to this long relationship here with the Rundfunk Corps, who are a treasure that we must support in these difficult financial times. I mean, they really have become one of the orchestra's limbs, and whatever crazy things we might have asked them to do, they have embraced it with open arms. This is one of the great ensembles in the world, and we are so lucky to have had such a close relationship. I'm thrilled that my successor is Kirill Petrenko. I couldn't be a happier man. It's not only a great conductor, but really a mensch, a thinking man who will look after this extraordinary institution. And when I look next year, he conducts the Franz Schmidt Fourth Symphony. It's a characteristic choice for him, a blazing masterpiece which is really too little known. And I went, damn, he got there before I did. And it's one of the pieces I'd thought for years, oh, I really should do this. This will suit the orchestra so well. But it's a piece of amazing intensity and eloquence, two of Kirill's greatest qualities. I think I will be very happy to be an audience member watching his concerts in the next years. And finally, I have to pay tribute and thank this extraordinary institution. It's not only this great orchestra, it's this great administration, it's all the people who have worked with us, the people who work behind the scenes as well as in front of the scenes. It's an extraordinary thing. No one pretends it's an easy job to work here. Not conductor, not administration, not players. But it is one of the jewels of our culture. And for me, the last years have been an unforgettable journey. I have learned so much. And I think we've managed to make something together. And so, although it's very strange, I say a very sad thing for me is that I will not be running the orchestra anymore. An absolutely wonderful thing for me is that I will not be running the orchestra anymore. I'm absolutely directly between the two things. Now I think it is time really for the next person to take this amazing ship on the next journey. But from the depths of my heart, I thank everybody. And you won't get rid of me very easily. I will be here and around as a regular visitor and as a member of the public with great joy. Thank you.